Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm Lakered out this morning, feeling good as always. Of course, it's the food thing, as you guys know. If you watch my videos enough, usually 9 out of 10 times, I'm waiting on food to get warmed when I make content these days, and that is exactly what we got going on right now. So a good 20 minutes to make my oatmeal ready to go. That'll give me enough time to talk to you guys about what I know. Now, this is what's up. First of all, the Los Angeles Lakers are still doing their due diligence in trying to acquire a wing. We're trying to find some wings in free agency. It's 4 guys that we've brought in for workouts to try to fill in the last roster spot. Maye Omi, a guy out of the Utah Jazz, a young 25-year-old guy, 6'6". I'm not too familiar with his game. In fact, I'm not familiar with him at all. I just heard his name for the first time today, but he played with that Jazz team last year. He hasn't had a whole lot of minutes in his career as of yet. So we'll see what he can do. Shabazz Muhammad, the guy who played from UCLA, played some years with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Pure scorer, microwave scorer. Always been able to put the ball in the basket. Not really somebody you expect to do a whole lot else, but he is someone who can fill it up when he's hot. He can really score. Jeremy Lamb, a veteran in this league, who's played some years with the Charlotte Hornets, played some years with the Indiana Pacers, had some very good games, had some extreme highlights. I remember one time he hit a buzzer shot from like 3/4 court when he played for Charlotte. He's had some big moments, and he's capable of hitting some shots for you. Had some injury issues here and there. Not somebody you expect to do amazing things, but a big body who can definitely come in and play the wing position. A veteran who you know can do some things good for you. The next name on that list, God, who was the name on the list? I don't know. There was a couple of guys that they had. My mind slipped me at the moment. It was Shabazz Muhammad, Maye Omi, Jeremy Lamb. There was one more name, and I don't remember who that was at the moment, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. But the point is, the Los Angeles Lakers are doing their due diligence to try to find a wing because, quite frankly, it's very difficult to find them, and we don't have any. Like any. We had 2 of them, and one of them really didn't fit because his name was THT, and we didn't consider him a wing because he's more like a guard. And then, of course, Stanley Johnson, who we threw in to get Patrick Beverly, which is something I'm supporting, but it is something that now created a huge hole for us. Now, the thing about it is, how huge of the hole is that small forward position really when you look at our roster? Honestly, it's an optical illusion. It's an optical illusion. We don't need a wing as much as it looks like we do. If guys can learn to play this small forward position very well, because they have the bodies to do it. Juan Toscano Anderson, he can play small forward. Troy Brown is a small forward. Austin Reeves, he's getting bigger, and as he grows, he's tall enough to play small forward, not against big guys like Kevin Durant, but against some other players who are more average in size and height. You can get away with playing him at small forward. Obviously, LeBron James can play small forward in any other position he wants to play, and I'm of the mindset he's always been a small forward. That's his body's position, in my opinion. Although he's built like a power forward, and he actually plays like a point guard. But I've always saw him as a small forward. So just roll with my opinion on that for the sake of what it's worth. I guess I don't know. I think he's a 3. So we're gonna put him there, and then we're gonna have opportunities to put other guys at the 3 too, who are just gonna have to play it. Lonnie Walker III, you're a 3 for the Los Angeles Lakers, sir. You're a 3. If you want minutes, you gotta play that. So we got the guys. That's the thing. They just have to be willing to play out of position. The guy that I want to throw at the 3 spot the most out of all of those guys, though, is Juan Toscano Anderson. Because I know he can stretch the floor. I know he's defensive-minded. I know he's athletic and catch lobs. And he creates a lot of problems for those guys at the 3 spot. He should be fast enough because he's an athletic guy who plays D, tracks people. He should be fast enough to guard guys a little smaller than him. And given the fact that he's played for a championship team, chasing around Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole in practice for the last couple of years, I would imagine that he's more equipped than maybe some of the average guys who have to play out of position in that space. He plays D. Played with Draymond Green. He knows D. He played with Gary Payton II. This guy has had plenty of people around him to sharpen his defensive sword. So I want to unleash Juan Toscano Anderson. And if we find out that he's not that great of a player, we just sit him back down and leave it alone. But I think it makes a lot of sense to lean on him as an NBA champion, as somebody who's played deep into the playoffs as of late. Even though he didn't play very much, I don't care because he's a Warrior, and we know the only reason why he didn't play was because they are logged in with full of talent. And it wasn't like he was just some guy that couldn't play and he had to get pushed to the back of the bench. No, they were 16 deep. and that was the point. Guys like Bielitsa made it so that it was impossible for him to get on the floor. So that's good for us, fresh legs. So that's how I look at it, man. Play him some three. Don't hesitate to run him out at the 3, 4, 5. He's positionless in my mind. And because he can shoot the three a little bit, it makes it even better. And also, of course, last but not least, Wenyen Gabriel. The first order of business for the Los Angeles Lakers is to value Wenyen Gabriel. And the reason why I say that is because in the article that I just read, it said that the Lakers are going to have to create a roster spot or something. And in order to do that, they may have to waive somebody, maybe Wenyen Gabriel. No, simply no. He's not the last guy on the team. Not in my mind. Not when you need wings. Not when we saw what he did last year for our defense. No. I think we need to value him more. I think we need to see him as an ascending role player. And I think we need to try to see if he can play some small forward. Very simply put, he's a defensive player. Now, see, this is the thing. I'm looking at the length that we have, and I'm looking at the ability for these long players to shoot the ball. Juan Toscano-Anderson can shoot the ball. Thomas Bryant can shoot the ball. He can shoot the ball. So it's one of those situations where it's like, all right, some of our taller players who are going to be forced to play the small forward just so happen to be able to stretch the floor. So this doesn't hurt us. You ask yourself, what is it that you need your small forward to do? Are we asking him to be a create for himself kind of guy who's dribbling all over the place, slashing to the basket with handles? Are we asking him to be a stiff that shoots threes? What do you want your small forward to be? Because if you want him to be wiggly like Kevin Durant, we can't acquire that player. We don't have that ability. If you want him to be a stiff and shoot threes, you got Bogdanovich over there in Utah and $19 million. But if you just need a guy to fill in, be able to shoot the three, be able to play defense, and be able to roam around and chase people around who are smaller than him, we got a couple guys on this roster who are going to be able to do that. We don't have to reach for that piece. At all. Wenyen Gabriel should be able to do that. Juan Toscano-Anderson should be able to do that. Walker should be able to do that. Braun should be able to do that. Reeves should be able to do that. Brown should be able to do that. That's like 6 people I just named that can play small forward. You don't have to do anything that doesn't benefit you in trying to reach for that piece right now. Now, before the playoffs, maybe you look at the trade deadline, see what your options are. Maybe throughout the season, if something pops up, you can find a wing. But right now, just reaching for anybody and everybody, and you're not going to give them a playing time? No. I think that's a mistake. Oh, and I figured out what the last name was. It was Dwayne Bacon from the Charlotte Hornets. I knew it would come back around eventually to me. Dwayne Bacon is a guy who's also, like Shabazz Muhammad, can fill it up, score. I've seen him do some good things, too. I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen a whole lot of Dwayne Bacon, but when he played for the Charlotte Hornets and the Orlando Magic, I did get a chance to see him fill it up a little bit. And he's a nice slasher, nice guy who could score the ball a little bit. That's as much as I know. But he's a decent guy to put on your team and expect to score. So it looks like the Lakers are shooting for microwave, small forward-ish guy. But even when I look at Dwayne Bacon and Shabazz Muhammad, to be completely honest with you, they're not small forwards either. They're not. Those guys are twos. Believe it or not. You're going to get away with playing them at the 3. Just like you're going to get away with playing Wenyen Gabriel and SGA and all these other guys. Not SGA. Juan Toscano-Anderson. You're going to get used to playing them at the 3 too. So I don't want to lobby for guys not to get opportunities, especially when I think those guys should have them. Dwayne Bacon is an NBA player. Jeremy Lamb's an NBA player. Shabazz Muhammad's been out of the league for a long time, but if his conditioning is right, he's been able to play. And I'm not familiar with the Omi guy, but this is a situation where I'm not saying those guys shouldn't be on the team. I'm just saying we need to make sure that we understand that it ain't necessary that we sign those guys. Not necessarily. For depth, for a little height, yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, you don't really need those guys if you're going to overpay for them. Now, if they're going to take the vet minimum, which I fully expect, then I don't think it's any harm, so long as they just understand that there may not be a lot of playing time for them. Even though they're coming in with the intention of being a small forward, I still think the Lakers are going to end up doing what it is I just said anyway. They're going to swap those other guys around who are a bit more talented, a bit more what we are having our equation already. They're going to end up using them as small forwards anyway. But let's tell the truth. Let's say Shabazz Muhammad's on this team. When is he getting in the game? When are we playing him? At what point in the game do we say, all right, that's the number? It's going to be in garbage time when the score is out of hand. I mean, it doesn't matter who's on the floor in those situations at all. He's not going to fill a real role. That's the problem. Jeremy Lamb, a little more likely to fill a real role because he's had more prestige in this league. He's a guy that you've seen in real situations a lot of the time. He's had a lot of NBA time. Those guys not as much. So I would expect Jeremy Lamb to get on the team and you'll see him this year. But Shabazz Muhammad, I don't know if I'll see him this year. Dwayne Bacon, it's up in the air. You know what I mean? If you do see him, he's usually in the back of the bench. So what the Lakers are doing are just trying to kick the can on back of the bench guys and probably just fill a roster spot. Probably you won't see them much longer after the season type of thing. And I'm with Trevor Lane. I don't necessarily think that helps us because we do have some players in the G League that we need to use those roster spots on, in my opinion. And this is me talking from my armchair coach perspective, but I would rather have Cole Swider on the floor than any of those guys. I would rather have Scottie Pippen on the floor than any of those guys. Not necessarily because I think that those young players are better than those vets at this stage, because those kids have to develop into whoever they're going to be. Maybe they're lucky enough to become as good as those guys, right? Just being respectful. But I'm shooting for upside at all times. BDF 44 is always of the mindset that if you don't have your natural picks, which we don't, because we're not counting 2025 or 2027. Those are trade pieces that we plan on getting rid of right now. So we don't have any picks. You need to be able to find value in places that otherwise ain't going to find no value. Now, the Dennis Schroeder pickup was exactly that. You're going to find value there because he is going to play up that contract tenfold. He's going to be way better than that contract, especially after what he just did in the FIBA tournaments. He's looking excellent. So, basically getting Dennis Schroeder for free, it's the type of stuff you need to be looking for when you don't have your picks, man. And maybe you get Jeremy Lamb in at $1 million and he rekindles himself, finds himself a $5 million player. Maybe we need him to play small forward, and he does that, right, at a big level. But I just don't see it necessary. For the same reason I just said, no, we're not going to do that. Why? Because Cole can come in the game. Bron's going to have a lot of minutes. It's going to be the AD Bron show, and anybody's floating around that is just got to fit on the floor with them or the bench unit. So if you don't happen to fit with that bench unit, or you don't happen to fit with those roles, with those stars, then you're not on the floor anyway. It don't matter. So in my mind, it's like I don't need to be comfortable with vets on my team. I don't need that. I got vets. They're stars. What I need is upside. What I need is a guy who could potentially come in at $1 million and play himself up to 8. And if none of them 4 names can do that, then we're just kind of doing our due diligence that isn't necessarily anything necessary at all. It's not. How do I make sense of what it is that I'm thinking? Because you always want to kick the can on everything. But what I'm saying is, if we're intent on bringing these players in as if they're going to really have a role for us, not necessarily. I look at them as guys who are going to help us in practice, right? Like, that's what it is. You want those 6'6", 6'7" bodies to simulate what it is that these other short guys that you got on your team cannot simulate. That's really what Jeremy Lamb and Bacon and those guys are supposed to be about. Omi are supposed to be about, in my mind. Because you ain't getting no real playing time. But what you are going to do is be able to be Paul George in practice. Right? You can do those things. I just need somebody to simulate the spots that KD's going to be jumping around from on the floor. And I ain't going to be able to get that out of everybody. Bron's got to do that every night. In practice, that's too much. We don't need him doing all that. We don't need him trying to be Giannis in practice. No, we need somebody else to try to simulate those things somehow. So I think that's along the lines of why you bringing in Jeremy Lamb, to be honest with you. I think that's exactly why you bringing in Jeremy Lamb. So, yeah, these are the kind of things I think about, man. And you know, maybe I'm just looking at this the wrong way, but I don't think teams need that. I don't need that. I can get a guy off the street to do that. Can I? Or can I not? I don't know. I need somebody who knows what they're talking about, who's an actual NBA player, to kind of tell me if it's necessary to use a roster spot on that type of thing. Maybe it is, but I don't know. When I think about how important a roster spot is, I don't want to fill it up with something that can't absolutely help me, either in the cap or on the court. And simulating who can play like KD ain't that serious of a thing. So, if that's what teams do, which I've heard that they do, which is why I brought it up, I can get one of the assistant coaches to do that. To be honest with you, I'm just gonna be honest. But anyway, so that's where I stand in regards to that. Now, it's also been reports, so we're going to segue into a different aspect of this conversation, that the Los Angeles Lakers are going to be strongly considering taking Russell off the bench starting the season. And Patrick Beverley quickly came out and said, you guys are reaching in regards to that's a reach. That is not what the Lakers have planned as of this moment. And I thought that was telling. I thought that was telling because it showed how quickly Patrick Beverley came to his teammates' defense in regards to something that may benefit Patrick Beverley in the eyes of public opinion. Because obviously, if Russell Westbrook ain't starting, you're thinking it's going to be Patrick. But Patrick's making it very clear whose side he's on, and that's ours, the Los Angeles Lakers as a whole. And we ain't going to be capping about nobody's value on this team as it pertains to how they did things last year. That's what I think the Lakers also did by acquiring Patrick Beverley. In our own way, we are punching back at those who have something to say about our players, because we're going to have a voice on this team that's not going to be quiet, that you expect to speak. So if somebody going to talk crazy about Russell Westbrook, I expect to hear something out of Patrick Beverley. If somebody going to talk crazy about the King, I expect Patrick Beverley to throw something in. Now, that doesn't mean I'm encouraging him to be insubordinate and get himself in trouble or get himself fined or mess up his reputation in any way. He did have some damage done with that ESPN thing, so he's going to have to, for the sake of what he wants to do after basketball, be mindful of how his image looks, especially while he's wearing this color. But like Draymond Green, it's going to be his job to teeter that line. It ain't his job to come in here and be somebody else. It ain't his job to come in here and be a good boy, so to speak. You come in here and give us that Patrick Beverley experience, and that's going to help us win. So that's what I want to see, man. I love what I'm seeing out of Patrick Beverley. He's already showing the type of leadership that I need to see from him as a fan. Come to the defense of the people who didn't have nobody come to the defense of them last year. Because last year we was getting beat up by the media. We was getting beat up on the floor. Our coach wasn't very strong in the locker room, it appeared to me. That's just my observation. Didn't look like he was ready to put his foot down. And a lot of players on the team were very frustrated. They were older guys and they didn't have a lot of fight in them as it pertains to going uphill, right? That's what we were missing. Guys were tired. Guys had been through battles already. We losing? Cool. Let's sit down. Let's have a drink of wine. That was the vibe last year. No. We losing? Let's get in the gym and work hard. We losing? Let's fight. Let's do something that's not going to make it seem as if we're okay with losing. That's what I want Patrick Beverley to do. Right? And it's easy for me to say that because I ain't got to hear his mouth. I ain't got to deal with it. But I'm telling you, when you're out there in the trenches and you're trying to win and you dealt with the crap that we dealt with last season where everybody was pretty much okay with losing, it felt like, you need somebody like Patrick to come in and not be. Simply not be. And if people start acting like they did last year, he needs to put his foot down and make sure that everybody's uncomfortable. And he's got BDF 44's 100% support on that all season long. So when the antics start, just remember, I'm with Pat. When y'all start tripping and everybody's tripping and Pat saying, yo, we need to step up and play better, I'm with Pat. Because I told y'all at the beginning of the season, that's exactly what I want him to do. When guys start getting complacent, and they do, type of personalities we've had on this team, they do. You need that guy. You need that guy. And that's what we got. So that's why we had to give up Stanley Johnson. That's why we had to give up THT. Because we needed that piece. And he's already working. He's already working. Remember, redefined greatness. Role players can be great at what they do. And you, as basketball fans and people who vote for them and all that, we need to start looking at players who bring those type of things to the table in that way. The Draymond Greens, the Marcus Smarts, the Patrick Beverleys, the PJ Tuckers. You can't win without those guys. You know, Michael Cooper. You can't win without those. Dennis Johnson. You can't win without those guys. If you didn't have Joe Dumars, you lost. You didn't have Dennis Rodman, you lost. You need them dudes Derek Fisher, you need them dudes. Rick Fox, you need them dudes. James Posey, and keep going. You need them dudes. If you didn't have those players on your team, chances are, no matter how good you were, you lost. And so that's what I'm talking about. We need that. We need every last one of them type of dudes. Defensive-minded guys who bring greatness to their role-playing situations. And without them, you didn't win no championship. Simple as that. So that's what I like. I see the Lakers are trying to put that type of piece on the floor with Patrick, and we need to keep looking to keep players like that in our organization every single time we're looking to win a championship. Every single time, look for that piece or two of them. You know what I'm saying? Or two. So, that's what I want to say, man. Very happy with what I'm seeing thus far. It's still before the season. We haven't seen anything yet, but I'm excited about what I'm hearing. Guys are not going for the nonsense. If you want to put lies out there about our roster, you need to understand there's going to be somebody back there who's going to respond to you, let you know that that's not what we're going for. And I also like what I'm seeing in regards to him and Russell Westbrook. It seems like they are, this is him publicly saying that's a Laker. That's my guy. Even though we have our history, whatever, we on the same team now. We going for the same thing. And if you coming after him, you for sure coming after all of us. So that's the mentality. We're setting the table early. We're setting the standard early for what it is that we're going to be doing. And what I want to see is win, lose, or draw, a togetherness about this roster. Win, lose, or draw, a togetherness about this roster. Because at the end of the day, this is year 20 for LeBron James. This has to be a meaningful year. And if we're not going to win the championship, we need to have a good journey. We need to have a very good journey. It can't be like last year. It can't be like the year before. We got guys coming in who need to redeem themselves this season. Russell Westbrook, Dennis Schroeder, these guys have something to prove. And I don't expect that they're going to come in with the intention of stinking it up, especially Dennis. Dennis is coming off a good situation. So playing in the FIBA, as I said, he balled out. I'm expecting him to come in to keep that momentum and be our sixth man this season. So that's what's up, man. These are good times to be a Laker fan because we now have found meaningful value picking up Dennis Schroeder at that price. We now have an enforcer in place that's going to be a mouthpiece for us. We have a coach who's also going to back his play, who's not going to be putting stuff on the floor that doesn't make sense, who's not going to be allowing guys to have a laissez-faire attitude, none of that. Darvin Ham is going to put his foot down as a rookie coach, and I expect some good results from his tenure as a Laker coach. So, that's what it is, man. We're a tough team. We're tough. We are a tough team. We got some strong defensive-minded guys on this team up and down the roster. Long defensive players who are going to rebound the ball and block shots. This team now needs a little bit of shooting. Like I said, we talked about Cole Swider. He's starting to heat up in talks in terms of what they're seeing from him in the practices and things of that nature as they're leading up to training camp or what have you. He is starting to make some noise, which doesn't surprise me because I've told you guys, he's a guy who's very gifted at shooting the ball in the sense he seems to be better. The tighter the closeout, the more accurate he shoots. And that, my friends, is something that you don't see very often, to say the least. And it's something that I'm still trying to figure out if it's as consistent as it appears it is. But hand in his face, he's money. It's really scary how well he shoots over closeouts. So, yeah, in a NBA where perimeter defense is king, and you find a guy like that, yeah, he's going to be playing. He's going to be playing a lot, which is why I don't think necessarily signing any of these young guys, older guys that we're trying to sign right now, is the move. Because anytime they get on the floor, I'm going to be looking at them saying, nah, put Cole in. Simple as that. That's what I'm going to be thinking each and every time. And it ain't got nothing to do with those players or whether or not I want to see them succeed or none of that. It's just about the upside. Nah. If I know Cole Swider can go from a second round pick to being our best shooter, all I got to do is play him a bunch of minutes and work with him, then that's what I'm going to do. He's going to get those minutes. And by the end of the season, he's going to be trained, so to speak, to be a designated shooter in spots I need him to be in. And not only that, but he plays defense with pride. He chases down blocks with pride. So those attributes make it so that he must get some attention on this roster. That's a no-brainer. And remember, there are other guys behind us. You know, I'm excited about Jay Huff. You guys know that. And so he needs his roster spot as well. Now, they can get away with having some of these guys start the season in the G League. No problem. But by the end of the season, I'm going to need at least 3 of those youngsters. At least 3 of them. Pippen, Swider, and Huff. I need all 3 of them to have roster spots. So I don't know how you're going to do that, Rob. You signing Shabazz Muhammad, signing all these guys, Jeremy Lamb. I'm going to need those 3 to have roster spots. And they're rookies. So it's like, what do you want to do? I understand we're a win-now team, but what you can end up making the mistake of doing is valuing experience over actual talent in some cases. You'd be like, yes, that guy, Jeremy Lamb, has experience. Yes. Yeah, but Cole Swider can shoot over anybody. Talent is where you want to go with that. You want the upside to grow into itself so it can be formidable on the floor with you. If you're constantly putting players ahead of those guys, when is Cole ever going to be good enough to do what it is you need him to do? See, this is what the problem was with the Boston Celtics and Peyton Pritchard, in my humble opinion. By the time they got to the playoffs, Peyton Pritchard wasn't who he could have been if they would have been playing him all season long. Unfortunately, they had our guy Dennis Schroeder in his way. Like, these are the things that get in the way of developing players, and then when you need them, they're not good enough. Look at a guy like Grayson Allen. Similar situation. He needed more minutes. He needed to be better by the end of the season so that when they needed him to be that microwave scorer that he was for the first 2 games of the playoffs, he could have been that for the whole playoffs. But you let other players who are kind of okay step in front of them because you don't want to wait for those guys to make their mistakes. You don't want to sit through them making bad decisions during the regular season. But what you don't realize is by the time they work all that out of their system through 82 games and reps and practice and all of that, by the end of the season, in the playoffs, they're ready to be who you need them to be. You ain't calling on Dwayne Bacon. You ain't calling on Shabazz Muhammad to play no damn playoffs. Hell no. You need Peyton Pritchard. You need the guy that, Cole Swider. You need the guy that you know is ultimately going to be playing at a high level over the next several years to start playing at that level right now for you. Right? But you ain't going to get any of that if you don't have him work them kinks out early. You ain't going to get any of that if you don't let them develop throughout the season. So that's always been my mentality. I get that from, believe it or not, NBA 2K. Believe it or not. It became a situation where it's like no matter how bad the rookie was at the beginning of the season, I gave him consistent roles. I got him the ball because I'm the point guard in consistent spots throughout the season all year long. He missing them shots all year long. By the time I get to the finals, he's hitting the shot. It's a video game, but it's the same mentality because reps make you better. Reps make you more comfortable in your skin. Reps get you more comfortable in those moments that get pressurized. If you don't get those reps, if you don't get those minutes throughout the season, when they do call your number, you ain't going to have it. And that's on the coaching staff, not on you, the player. So that's why I don't think we should be signing some of these other guys. No. Get Pippen, Huff, and Swider in early. Have them playing regular rotation minutes. Let them get their turnovers, their mistakes, their brick shots, their missed defensive assignments. Get all that out of their system by February. Let them make all the mistakes they're going to make in garbage time. If we can get games to be in garbage time, obviously that determines by the stars and what they're able to do. But again, the goal for Darvin Ham is to try to get those players that he knows he needs to turn into role players over the next 2 years, get them going now. The one thing I can always say about Luke Walton, the one thing I really, really liked about Luke Walton was that mentality that he had with Brandon Ingram from the very first game. The very first game, he put the ball in Brandon Ingram's hands, and he made him a point guard from jump. Immediately. First game of the season. You're our point guard. Get others involved. Look for your shot second. That was the type of thing that ultimately made B.I. the type of player he is now, who can do pretty much everything. He don't have no weaknesses pretty much at all. And so it's like, it's because you put him on the floor and told him to do some things that otherwise he has to work out. He has to learn things. He has to make mistakes. You put him in positions to do that. By the time he gets to now, he can get you 10 assists on top of the 40 points and 5 blocks and all that other stuff because you taught him how to do that early. That's what I'm talking about. We need to do that with Scottie Pippen in regards to shooting the ball from behind the arc. He doesn't have good three-point shooting rhythm at all, but he has excellent floor, feel, defensive feel, pass, feel. All of these different things are in place. So what do we need to do? We need to get him his reps on the three-point shots so he can be competent from behind the arc, so we can use him regularly and get all of those attributes out of him rather than him being a liability spacing the floor. These are things that we need to work out early. Get him reps in practice shooting, get him reps on the floor shooting. By the time we get to the end of the season, he'll have that in order, and he'll be ready to be a role-playing point guard for us. Type of stuff I'm talking about, like Cole Swider, you know what I mean? He's going to have to get stronger. He's going to have to get better defensively. He's going to have to move. He's going to have to get quicker and all that stuff. How do we get him going? Obviously, he has to put in the work in the gym. Obviously, he has to put in the work in the practice, but we're going to need him to get the playing time. It has to happen. Jay Huff, same thing. All these guys, they need playing time. So us bringing in guys that may be considered okay or less than, dead that. No disrespect to nobody, but we're trying to build a champion. I know exactly how to do it. You get the most out of what has the very little value attached to it. You get the most out of it. How you do that? By putting attention to it, paying attention to it, making them play, playing to their strengths, finding rotations that they fit on, and make sure they're in those. I promise you, you turn them three young players, Cole Swider, Scottie Pippen, and Jay Huff, you turn them into something this season, you're going to have a first-round pick out of the three of them. You're going to have a first-round pick. Out of one of those three, one of them is going to develop into being somebody you can trade for a first-round pick. That's what I'm saying to you. If not all three. I'm not playing. I'm dead serious. I am dead serious. When I look at the shooting ability of Cole Swider, there's going to be a game where he gets 40 points. Understand this. There's going to be a game, probably not this season, but somewhere down the road, he's going to have 40. Why? Because he can shoot like that. I'm telling you that before he plays his first basketball game. He can shoot like that. Scottie Pippen, double-digit assists. And there's going to be a game somewhere down the road where he has 13 or 14 assists in one game. I'm telling you it's going to happen. I've already seen it. He can do this. He just needs the minutes. He needs to develop. He needs to become that. But he can do it. That is going to be his career high one day. Cole Swider can block a lot of shots. He can shoot a lot of threes and block a lot of shots. He's long, and he's a center, and he's a good interior defensive player. Dangerous stuff. When you're talking about what you're looking for in regards to Miles Turner, when we look over at the Pacers and say we want that piece, do you know what that piece is about? He's about interior defense, blocking shots, and three-point shooting from the center position. That's exactly what Cole Swider does. Those are his strengths. You don't need to pay $20 million a year for those attributes. You just need to develop the player you have. So I'm talking about, man. I'm not signing none of these dudes. No. Get those three and put them on the big team and make them the guys that get the garbage time. Those are the guys I want to see when the score is 25 up, 25 down. So I'm just telling you, I know what it takes to win. I know what it takes to find the value that you don't have when your picks are gone. I know. This is how you do it. So I've been preaching this for over a year. I know for a fact the Lakers are on the right track. I don't have any problem with them kicking the can on players, but we need to value our roster spots. If those roster spots can't overachieve in value, we don't need to add them. Period. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.